Good evening, everyone. Should I go here? Good evening, everyone. I think you can hear me. I can hear myself, so that's a good thing. Thanks for coming this evening. My name is Michael LaCroix. I am a project manager for VTrans. I work in the traffic design section at the agency, and I'm a project manager for the project that we're going to talk about tonight, which is the Bennington STP 1000-23 project, which is colloquially known as the Peanut Roundabout, just down here at the bottom of the hill. You guys are all familiar with it, I think. And tonight we're going to talk about construction. We've reached a point in the project where we're going to start construction. You probably have already started seeing some activity out there over the summer if you've driven through in terms of relocating utilities, things like that. Now we're getting to a point where we're actually going to be doing some earth movement and actually going to see some real solid improvements out in the intersection. So we figured we'd get ahead of it to the most of, to the best of our ability this fall. Even though you probably won't see a lot over the winter, you may see some activity this fall. So we wanted to get in front of you guys and let you know where we're at with the project. This project is probably pushing 30 years old at this point. I think there was a scoping study that was done in 95 or 96. We've had we dropped it, we picked it up, we dropped it. Finally, we picked it up one last time right around COVID. We've got it to a point where we're ready to construct it, and that's what tonight's meeting is about. We have members of the project team with us tonight. We'll do introductions real quick, and at that, I think I'll turn it over to Dennis. He works for Green International. He is a consultant that VTrans has hired to run the design of the project. So we'll hold out for questions until after, I believe. And thanks again for coming.
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to be here and to participate in this process with us. And as Mike said, is Dennis Verdia. I'm the project manager for Green International, overseeing the design of the project. And with me, I also have Steve Sacco, who's a project engineer. You'll be hearing from him about some of the details of the project as well. One of the things that we wanted to mention is the fact that this is also a Zoom meeting. Do you want to mention anything about that?
Hi everyone, I am the public information consultant for the project. And we do have some folks joining us online. And so when we get to the Q&A portion of the evening, we'll just be alternating between if there's any questions coming in from online and also in the audience here. They should be able to hear us, so there's that cross communication, but they'll be sharing their comments or questions in the chat, and we'll be able to voice them for everyone here. So we just ask that you leave your questions until the end, because we may end up answering it via our presentation before we get to the Q&A. But we are recording the meeting. Cat TV is here with us today, so if you did sign up to receive our project announcements via the project stakeholder list, you'll receive a recording of the meeting afterward. And I'll walk the mic around just so folks online can hear your questions once we get to the Q&A. So if you can just raise your hand during that time, then I can bring the mic over to you. And then just for the folks online, just mainly you really need to know about the chat. So if you have any tech issues or if you have questions or comments, please just use the chat functionality to put those in there, and then we can either help you during the meeting with any tech issues or answer your questions or comments at the end of the meeting. But if you have them as they come along, feel free to put them in as you think of those questions. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to grab the mic, actually, so I can kind of see. One of the things that we want to quickly talk about is tonight's agenda. We will be covering the project purpose and need, existing conditions of what's out there today, proposed conditions of what the proposed layout is going to look like, and the work that will be constructed out there. Obviously, the construction schedule and the upcoming, construction, the traffic impacts associated with construction, the detours that we are expecting to be in place for, and some of the durations there associated with that. And we'll also give you some information about how you can stay informed and continue to be updated throughout the construction process as it progresses next season. The overall project purpose and need was to improve this area due to some of the safety concerns of this intersection. There were a lot of issues with the speed of this intersection and vehicles driving through this intersection. And so our project was intended to design a better configuration of these 5, if you count the driveway roadways, that all come together in this one location, and a way to get vehicles, pedestrians, bicyclists, all through this area safely. That was a major goal of the project, and as we designed it, that was what we worked to accommodate, is all of those different modes of transportation. All right, so here you have the existing conditions, and we have Silk Road, and to the bottom of the screen, Vermont Route 67, east and west. In this image, north is up, and we have College Drive and Madison Road there. And I'll hand it over to Steve to talk about some of the proposed conditions of the project within this project limits.
So just to further talk about the existing conditions, we do have the Ninja Path that's out there today that has rectangular rapid flashing beacons. You can see an image of them on the left. These are for at the crossings of Silk Road as well as the 67A crossing. So here's our proposed design. This is the post-construction conditions. And we have, we're going to replace the intersection with a 5-lane peanut-shaped roundabout. And then we'll be reconstructing all the roadways going in, about 300 feet of approach work on each roadway. Also, we'll be widening out some of the roads, so Route 67A will have 5-foot shoulders now, which is wide enough to accommodate bicycles. Also, we'll be widening slightly Silk Road and Madison Road to give them 3-foot shoulders. I think today they're just about 11-foot lanes. And then we also will be reconstructing the Ninja Path to connect to our shared use path around the roundabout. We'll be reinstalling the rectangular rapid flashing beacons that are out there today at the crossing of 67 as well as Silk Road. And we'll also be doing the splitter islands. You guys might be familiar with the roundabout at the Walmart intersection there. These aprons here around the center of the roundabout, as well as these 2 mountable islands on the northern part. These will be stamped concrete. The color will be similar to what you see at that Walmart intersection. Also doing light improvements, particularly focusing on the pedestrian crossings as well as the direct approaches to the roundabout. We'll skip this for now. So anticipated traffic impacts, we're anticipating work to be constructed during off-peak hours during the day, on weekdays to hopefully minimize disruptions to traffic. We'll be utilizing 1-lane alternating traffic for the construction on 67A. So this will involve, uniformed traffic officer or flaggers stopping one direction of traffic and letting the other traffic through. So you can expect some, delays for this type of work. And then we'll also be doing roadway closures. They'll be broken up into 2 phases. Phase 1, or either or, depends on what the contract ends up doing, but one phase will have Silk Road will be closed, and then phase 2 will switch over, and they'll close Madison Road and College Drive to the north. For the entire duration of construction, pedestrian accommodations will be maintained through temporary access. So this is the plan view of the detour that's anticipated for the Silk Road closure. So here, it's all of Silk Road, south of the intersection will be closed, and the detour route will take you west on 67A to the intersection of Murphy Road to Austin Hill Road, and then you can access Vale Road to get to the other side of Silk. This detour is about 5 to 10 minutes of extra travel time. This is the other detour for the northern part of the project, from Madison Road and College Drive. Given Bennington College has multiple access points, we're not anticipating any adverse effects to their operations. Again, this will take you east on 67 down to the intersection with Route 7A, where you'll go north and then west onto Rice Lane. Again, this detour is about 5 to 10 minutes of additional travel time. So here's just a look at our anticipated construction schedule. The contract was awarded back in September. Utility relocations currently underway, should be completed hopefully this fall. And then next spring, March, they'll begin mobilization, tree clearing, and ultimately beginning construction. And the construction will continue through 2025 into 2026, with substantial completion anticipated for the summer of 2026, and then completion in fall of 2026.
So some of you may have attended tonight because you are already signed up for our stakeholder list and received the meeting invitation. If not, if you did sign in at the front desk, then you will be added to our stakeholder list to receive future updates. And that includes really any information about project milestones up until active construction, but then weekly construction updates once construction begins, and that includes helpful information about the work schedule, anticipated construction activities and traffic impacts, and we also sometimes issue supplemental traffic alerts. So that's our main vehicle for relaying information to the public, and you can, if you got a copy of the presentation, you'll have that QR code. I can't really move the little video, so you can also scan it with your phones here, but you can sign up to join that stakeholder list at any time. And then also the other QR code is the project fact sheet, and that's a fee transparency fact sheet. So it does have a little bit more information about the project, including a SharePoint folder that includes a video that will be presenting, so you can access some of the project documents via the project fact sheet, and there's the URL listed as well. And then, as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm the public information consultant for the project. So if you have any future questions or concerns about the project moving forward throughout the life of the project, please feel free to reach out. My phone number and my email is listed here. So send any questions or concerns my way, and then I'll be your direct line with the project team to answer those and get information to you in real time. Okay, well, we're at the Q&A portion of the evening. We can always go back to previous slides if you want to take a closer look. But at this time, we invite questions or comments from the public, both here in person. We'll alternate if any come in online. But if anyone has a question, I can bring a mic over to you. We are having some hearing difficulties with these other mics, so once I bring it to you, if you can just speak really closely so the folks online can hear your question, that would just be really helpful for everyone to be able to hear.
I understand that the brick house, the historic brick house, is that going to be demolished?
So the brick house is owned by Bennington College, and it is not going to be demolished. The college had the opportunity, or has the opportunity to tear it down if they will. I think they were using it for some maker space at one point, but I don't know if they currently are still using that space, but they have no intention of tearing it down at this point. Maybe they will in the future, but as part of this project, it won't happen.
Is there anyone here from Bennington College that can comment on that? What's the future use of that building?
Angel is online, but I don't know if she's in a position to answer that question or not.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. We don't have any plans to tear down the Silk Road house. Actually, we're trying to figure out currently what, the next step is for, what we decide to use the house for. That hasn't been decided currently, but it's still in conversation. Lorraine Atwood, who is our CFO, is also on this meeting.
Also on the peanut-shaped design of the roundabout.
She wants to add to
Oh,
Yeah, I just said hi, I'm Lorraine Atwood, I'm the new CFO of Bennington College. You may know Brian Murphy was the CFO, I replaced him about a year ago. I work very closely with Angel, so what she said is correct. And I was curious, the question that was asked, I was curious as what your point of the question was. I was wondering why you asked that question.
Well, a rumor had it that the house was going to be removed, and it was a historic house, and I know I'm a Bennington College alum, and I know a lot of the alums are concerned that that might happen. And why? I mean, if it would be necessary.
Okay, thank you.
I have a follow-on question to that. Has there been any consideration, well, actually it's two parts. First part is, has there been any consideration to relocating that house? And I know how much of a pain that would be. The second question is, has there been any consideration to how much indirect damage the house will receive from all the construction traffic? Just out of curiosity. I don't have a horse in this race.
I can answer the second part of that question, or the second question. The construction activity for the roundabout will not have any sort of impact to the house. That was part of the design. We were trying to stay clear of it. At that point in which we were actively designing it, the college wanted to keep it intact, so we stayed clear from it. That's part of our design. The first part I won't be able to answer. That'd be Angel or Lorraine, but.
No, the college currently has no plans of moving it, as Angel said, it's still under discussion. I don't know what the conversation was when this plan was put in place about moving that house, so I apologize, I don't understand how it remained in place or whether the project would have been different had it been moved.
I can follow up on a little bit about that. I know my boss, previous boss, Andy Schlatter, was the one who was big into this project, and I'm just kind of coming into it new with everyone here, but I've been at the college for almost 30 years, so I know that there's history around this house, and I know that a lot of people wanted to tear down the house, and that there were a lot of people who were against tearing down the house. The house currently, I have heard no talk about moving it, even from Andy when he was overseeing and working with the group on this project. But also the house is in really bad shape. We probably 10 years ago had somebody come in and look at the house, and it needed extensive work at that time, and we really have not done a lot with the house at all. So the house is in pretty rough shape.
I have a question.
Okay, we just have a few questions online, so we'll just alternate and then I'll bring it right back to you. If you could just go back to the timeline slide, we had a request to reshare that. Okay, and then a question from online. Will Silk Road be closed all of the time or just during the weekly construction?
So the two, we don't know for certain yet. The contractor still needs to submit their traffic control plan for approval, and that should be shortly. I would anticipate that Silk Road will not be closed for the entirety of the project. I think any sort of closures and any sort of detours, that potential detours that we showed you tonight, are only going to be in place long enough for the contractor to perform work that would affect those. Otherwise, V-Trans would want to try to keep the main roads open as long as possible.
One more question and then I'll take another question from in person. So what are the estimated road closure lengths? For example, Madison Road, number of days of closure?
To be seen at this point. We'll know more once the contractor submits their plan to execute their work. So I would just say stay tuned, sign up for the project updates because we're going to be putting those out weekly, and we'll give people as much notification as possible for road closures.
Thank you. I'll stick with that theme, though, even though you don't have answers. So I'm particularly interested in the duration of the Silk Road closure, as I'm sure a lot of people are, because that's a really, really heavily used route between North Bennington and the center of Bennington. And we're just really wondering about the duration, and I guess to emphasize the fact that trying to minimize the amount of time that closure is fully closed is, I think, really critical to a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you know, we'll keep them to the minimum extents as possible. Like we really don't want to be utilizing the town highways or impacting the town highways with massive amounts of traffic for long periods. So we're going to do what we can to keep it to a minimum.
And the other question I had was, in other roundabout construction projects, I've seen a lot of times, and this one's different because peanut, they kind of like pre-build one side of the roundabout and keep traffic going on that way while you fully build the other side, and then you switch it around so that through traffic is kind of maintained. And I know it's complicated with the side roads and everything, but I think, you know, I've seen roundabouts work pretty well without a lot of traffic disruption when you can do that.
Yeah, no, thanks for that comment. I've seen roundabouts, I've seen probably at least a dozen roundabouts constructed in Vermont, and I've seen them constructed in all different ways. I've seen them built inside out, I've seen them built outside in, I've seen them built, you know, in quadrants, in halves. So yeah, once the contractor will be submitting their plan, we'll be able to kind of get a better sense as to how they want to tackle it. So.
All right, we'll take one more question from in person, then we'll go back to online.
Thanks. I need the peanut slide to ask the questions I need to ask. But first I want to thank V-Trans because you have a thankless job, never enough money, never enough time. So I appreciate what you guys do. As a driver, it seems reasonable. I hope you guys are factoring in how steep Austin Hill Road is in the winter when it's slick, and the corners are a little bit hard to see around, so hopefully you'll do all that. But what I wanted to ask about is because I also bicycle 4,000 to 6,000 miles a year, all 4 seasons. I've been through this intersection hundreds of times every single year. One thing I'm not clear on to start, so you said there's going to be 5-foot shoulders here, which is fantastic. Thank you. When you get into, I don't know what they're called, but those triangle things right there in the middle of the lane, does the 5-foot go all the way around the peanut?
No.
Okay, what's the plan for that? Because Walmart, I can tell you some of the problems at the Walmart, it's dangerous.
You want me to take it?
Yeah, go for it.
Grab the mic. Thank you.
Can
Can you hear me? So the primary reason why we reduce the shoulders is because that's when you have the opportunity to get out of the roundabout and onto the shared use path. So there's, at that point, once you get into the roundabout, so coming into the roundabout, you have the wide 5-foot shoulders. But once you get into the roundabout, once you get into this area, the shoulders go down to 1 or 2 feet. And the reason for that is because you have the ability to go off of the road with a ramp here and follow the path around the roundabout rather than go through it. So that's one option from a bicycle standpoint. The other option is we actually want to get you into the travel lane because you're not safe if you are next to a vehicle. You're safe if you're in front or behind it.
Exactly. So I get it on the south side, but the north side, obviously, there's not that option, right? So your point is exactly right. What I have found, there's only one safe way to go through that Walmart, if I can use that as an example, one safe way, which is as you approach, the bicyclist has to get into the flow of the cars and get right smack in the middle of the lane. 2 comments for your consideration. Number 1, some drivers, they don't get it. If there was a sign that explained that bicyclists, for everyone's safety, will be in the middle, that would eliminate some people getting really hot. So that's one comment. The second thing is, and I don't know, I can't tell from this, it will be exactly the same, but there's still one problem at Walmart, if I can use it as the example, to that. That works on the actual circle. When you're coming in and out of the circle on these things, it gets really narrow. And you have to start moving over to the side, but people try to go by you. The only saving grace on the Walmart on the east side of it is because there's that middle lane, I forget what they're called, but where you can, drivers can get in the middle. So they can get around as soon as they're past the concrete, but when you're going right through the concrete, it's dangerous again. So it sounds like you guys are doing a super job of thinking through all this. But if you could just double check your design like in more detail on that,
Absolutely.
Then I think it's going to work and it's going to be safe a lot better than what we have now.
Thank you for your feedback. Absolutely, and we do look at that very carefully. The width of the lane is something that is designed, and, and some of the factors that come into play is we actually need to force these vehicles to slow down, and signs alone don't do it. So we have to use geometry, and we have to use the narrowness and the feel of how narrow it is to encourage them to slow down, reduce their speeds as they're coming in. And one of the major ways we do that is through creating that narrow entrance into the roundabout.
Yeah, and I totally get that. There's extreme examples way up in north, going over that pass where the trucks refuse to. But anyway, I get that. But then if they just can understand what the bicyclists are doing, because not everybody does understand. So anyway,
Thank you.
My 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a question from online. Which trees and how many trees will be removed? They see new trees on the diagram and just wondering if that means that they'll be replaced with the same number or more trees.
I don't have an exact count.
Yeah, we don't have an exact count. There's a group of trees on the south side on the Silk Road. It's a big, I guess, I don't know what you want to call it, but a group of trees that's going to get wiped out. We're going to build some stormwater infrastructure in there so that we can treat stormwater, and then we're going to plant brand new trees around it. So I can't give you an exact number, but we're going to have fresh new landscaping throughout. We worked with the college to select certain species of trees for the middle of the roundabout, or actually across the whole plan site. So any sort of scrub trees that are out there today are going to be replaced with something new and a little more defined and nice looking. So.
Okay, we'll take one question from in person.
Yeah, I got a quick one.
That's for folks online.
Yeah. Have you thought about putting any signs out here for people to use directionals? Because I remember decades ago when they put these in and around Boston, they actually put signs up to please use directionals. The one in Bennington, nobody uses directionals. Not only is it, courtesy, but it, it helps the flow. I never see anybody. And there's also no signs. And it just makes sense. I mean, if you're turning, it's just obvious. I think it's I suggest you do it. Because, yeah, signage, just plain use directionals. Thanks.
So one of the things that we always have to look at very carefully as design engineers, especially at an intersection or a roundabout, is something we call sign clutter. So we want to maximize the visibility of the most important signs. And one of the ways that we do that is we have to look at, we have a limited area and we have limited attention from drivers as they're coming through. And so we want to notify them of the most important things as much as possible. And when we design the roundabout, we look at what the federal requirements are, the state requirements are for the minimum sign packages, making sure that we meet those well. And then we look at particular wayfinding signage, directional signage, things like that, that's necessary for folks that maybe aren't from the area to be able to find their way. But we also, yield signs as people approach, that's an important factor, right? We want folks to yield to the circulation of the roundabout. So there's things like that. One thing that we find very often, and is a general issue, is that a lot of people don't read signs, right? And so when we do put signs up, we try our best to make sure that, we use the limited attention of the driver that we have and aim for maximum effect. Right, so in this case, trying to have people safely enter the roundabout rather than a sign that may end up having a lot of text associated with it that may be a distraction also in and of itself.
I don't even think people require that. It's the law to use your blinkers on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And nobody does it.
Correct.
And there's no sign.
No, absolutely agreed. It becomes an enforcement issue at that point, and
But if you don't even have a sign that tells you, then people don't even know.
in fairness, we don't have use your blinker signs at a regular stoplight intersection too. So, yeah, no, it's a fair point, right? I mean, people need to follow the law. But unfortunately, it's one of those situations we can't put signs everywhere too, so we kind of have to pick and choose.
A lot of people had the question about timing, and you said that when the contractor submits their plan. So my question is, when do you expect contractor to be submitting plans?
So I can take that. So this is Demetrio. He works for V-Trans. He's going to be the resident engineer on the project. So he will be the boots on the ground, working with the contractor directly.
So the contractor, probably this upcoming, not this week's pretty much done. Next week, or the following week, which is Thanksgiving, they're hoping to get their schedule in, their traffic control plan, and their erosion plan in. In order to get those, in order to submit those and have them approved, then they'll get notice to proceed. Unfortunately, the construction season in Vermont ends December 2nd. So even if they get all the stuff to the notice to proceed, chances of them getting out there and doing any work this winter is slim to none. They will start up in the springtime, but so that's where some of this stuff is just to be determined, just because we're waiting for the contractor. We don't dictate how they build the job. We give them we show them it's buildable, but it's up to them for their means and their methods to determine how they want to proceed.
Yeah, and the timing of this meeting was such because there was that chance of them being on site this year, and we wanted to get out to you folks to let you guys know that that was possible, and so that you guys weren't, asking questions like, what's going on? So unfortunately, time's going to run out a little bit on them, and you'll see them in the spring.
But by all means, as I say, follow up, stay up to date. We will be putting out notices, even though it'll be winter. Once I get all the submittals in for notice to proceed, we'll send out a message just letting everybody know that the contractor is planning on starting work in the spring.
I'm just going to take a few questions online and then I'll be back up there. We just had a request they had a hard time hearing the beginning part of the presentation. So asking if we could share how traffic will be moved east to west on 67A if the intersection is closed, and that mic does work a little bit better.
So 67, in this case, 67A is the primary route through this area. And so as we designed the phasing of the roundabout and the construction, and we looked at the potential viable way that it could be built, we had to maintain two-way traffic in that area. Right, so there'll be temporarily one-way alternating traffic, but that will be during the day and only in temporary times. Right, so when we physically have to rebuild the road on 67, we have to alternate traffic so we can actually do the work, but there won't be no closure of 67A that extends beyond just the day-to-day activities. And that is primarily because that is the main route. That is where the highest volumes of vehicles are traveling through this area. When we reconstruct Silk Road and College Drive and Rice Lane, Madison Road up there, we have to look at the closures for those simply because of the impacts of the roundabout. We can't physically, there's not enough width for us to keep those roads open and reconstruct them at the same time. And so the reason for the closures there is because we have to temporarily close them, rebuild the road in that area, and as soon as we can shift traffic onto the roundabout pattern, then we can open that road right back up. But 67 stays open during all of those phases. Hopefully that answers the question.
Just one follow-up. So a person asked, they assume that any closure of Silk Road will be able to access Route 67A and not to the south?
Let me do this. So this is the detour when Silk Road is closed. So ultimately what happens is if you can't get from 67 onto Silk Road at this intersection, you'll have to go straight through the intersection, then come down Murphy Road, Austin Hill, Vale, and down to the other end of Silk Road. And that is, when Steve was up here and he mentioned, that is approximately the 5 to 10 minute detour that would have to happen when you can't take that left onto Silk Road from 67. You have to go straight through and go around.
Angel, did you want to comment on that? Your hand is raised.
Yeah, actually, I have a question in regards to that. So when you close down to a one-lane road, and you may have already reviewed this with Andy, but he's no longer with us, so I just want to be sure. We have a wood chip truck that comes to campus at least once, mostly on most days twice a day, to deliver wood chips to our biomass. Would they be able to navigate with the one-lane closure and turn to get into the Bennington College entrance, or should we think about opening up our north gate entrance so that we can have our wood chip deliveries?
The one lane is on the approaches. It's not in the intersection.
Yeah, so there's two answers to that. One, yes, we did talk about the biofuel. We had multiple conversations about it. The one-way alternating is on the approaches to the intersection. So the intersection itself it's wide enough, there's enough space there for us to keep that open, but it's the approach roads on 67A from the east and the west that are really tight, and that's where we have to do the one-lane alternating to get vehicles through there during construction. So the actual intersection itself will stay open during those phases. And we did look at the turning movements to make sure that even during construction, there's a way for those trucks to get in and out of the facility. So that's something that, obviously you'll continue to coordinate with Demetria during construction and everything else. Probably would be great for him to be aware of the times when those trucks are anticipated so that there could be some planning for the contractor. and that way they can adjust their TMP, you know, in that area, whether that's just moving some drums out of the way or things like that to get those larger trucks in and out.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, we'll take another question from in person. Okay.
I was just curious what the price tag of the project is going to be.
What was the estimate? The estimate was $5 million. I believe it was $5 million. Yep. And that's 100% federally funded through a safety improvement program that the federal government has.
Wow.
Okay, back to the slide on the screen. Can you explain, I may have already explained this and I was just asleep in my seat. Can you explain the top bullet point, work to be completed on weekdays during daytime hours? I thought you said somewhere in that conversation that you were trying to schedule things so that the job would be being done at low traffic times. I would think that weekdays in the daytime is where the high traffic times are on that section of road. But I'm curious as to whether there is even a plan in place yet as to timing.
Well, we haven't, as Dimitri had pointed out, the contractor hasn't submitted their final plan and schedule yet. Typically, we would restrict them to daytime hours. While 67A is busy enough, it's not so busy that we would have to do nighttime work or weekend work or something like that. So we've constructed roundabouts of this size in other parts of the state with more traffic than this during the daytime. So we don't think it'll be an issue. Obviously, it's something that our construction staff's going to be monitoring throughout, and we'll make adjustments as needed. But we don't see daytime workday hours being an issue here.
Okay, and the final question for me, at least, is the question I think 50% of the people who are in this room have asked quietly. Who's the contractor?
The contractor is Casella Construction. They are out of Pittsburgh, Rutland area, and they've constructed several roadway projects for us in the past. So they've had some good success. We've had good success with them. So
thank you.
All right, we have a question online. Would it be possible for some of the project work to be done at night? Right
now we don't anticipate it. We don't anticipate needing it. That's not to say that there won't be nighttime work in the event of an emergency, or if something happened at the end of a workday that needed to get extended into nighttime hours. But at this point, we don't see the need for nighttime work. Nighttime work brings a whole set of challenges. We need work zone lighting. It's a safety issue for the workers. There aren't any residents, there's one or two residents nearby, so we try to be respectful of their living situation as well. So we're going to try to avoid daytime work here.
And then one more question online. Does the current design show a retaining wall along the east side of Madison Road? If so, can you estimate how high it will be?
Oh, that's it.
It's not just
What you see there is a swale, a stone-lined swale for drainage. It's, understandably difficult to tell on a plan like this, but that's what that is. It's not a wall. All of the grading is slope grading. So we do not have any walls or drop-offs on this project. Everything is graded either up to meet existing grades or down to meet existing grades.
I think I'm particularly worried about the people that live kind of on the northern end of Silk Road, right up. Could we go back to the map with the rerouting of the detour? Yeah. So the people that live up there, kind of where the 2 is there, anyone there, they're gonna be severely inconvenienced. I want to see what the contractor comes back with the control plan. But is there any way, have they discussed with you guys, if they might consider putting a lane that connects 67A to Silk Road, kind of cutting over there so that people can get over there? I can't really point at it too well, but can we stay in touch about that? I think that would be important. Like about right there, because there's space that I don't know if there's state regulatory things that regulate how you can get close to the water, to the river there. But.
Yeah, no, and there's a whole line of permitting that would have to be considered, and a whole other set of impacts that just we didn't think were necessary for this. The folks on Silk Road we think are far enough away where they shouldn't be negatively impacted. Obviously roadway work is negatively impactful. It just is. It's nature. But they live far enough away where we don't think they're going to be terribly impacted. We've been working. We're in close contact with the gentleman that lives on the northeast corner. He's been very supportive of this project as well. So if anybody would be impacted from noise or whatever, it's probably going to be him. But he seems to be pretty easygoing about it. So everybody else seems like they're far enough away.
We also do have a visualization video that we can show and play for folks online and here, so you can see what it would be like to travel through the Peanut Roundabout.
Thank you. Actually, I was going to ask if we could see the cool visualization, because that is really fun. But I think, and Will may have been asking more about the impact of the detour than the impact of the construction traffic, because that detour shows if you're going around. It doesn't really show the impact on the people who have to travel the full length of Silk Road in addition to the detour. So to try to, again, to my point, minimize the closure time on Silk Road, because those people really are, it's 5 to 10 minutes for everybody, it's longer for them.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, and if that's what you're, I apologize for that.
And also just the fact, getting like that, but just so many people that I know go from North Bennington to Bennington and cut through that way. So I just think about all the people, and also I'm just curious how long. So you're saying March of 25, and there's kind of a vague cutoff of when construction will end. When will that part of Silk Road essentially be cut off according to what you guys are expecting?
Right. Again, we don't know. We have to see what the contractor schedule is going to be like. And again, we're going to do what we can to keep that closure to a minimum. And yeah, it's unfortunately that those folks will have to drive a little bit longer, but hopefully we're talking days and not weeks, and certainly not months. So.
Yeah, I'll just exit out of here really quickly so that way we can play the presentation. Okay. One more question, sorry. It's a funding question. Is the aforementioned $5 million in federal funding secured, or are we dependent on any further federal funds beyond the time frame of January 2025?
The funding's secured, locked in. Ready, it's in the bank, ready to be doled out to the contractor as the project is completed.
Thank you.
Sorry, I may have.
Oh no, I'm using that back. Sorry for the glitchiness.
Well, they all
Yes.
It doesn't work. I mean, that's big.
What landfill back onto that old Bennington trail,
Oh, I just wondered, is it the same contractor that did the
East and west, so stationing always goes west and east, or south to north. The north. So
I have two things. When you said that you're gonna widen Silk Road and Madison Road, is that like part of Silk Road or all of Silk Road or?
just at the intersection where the road comes into the new roundabout. So you're talking
Ninja crossing in.
Yeah, so just from the Ninja Path crossing in. So you're only talking 100 feet or a couple hundred feet at most. Yeah. So the video is a little jerky tonight because of the machine that we're running it on, but the video is available, so you guys can go anytime on the website and go pick it up.
Now seeing this now, and the house, and the house doesn't work there. I mean, and if someone says it's in a flood zone, if it's not gonna be used, it just doesn't work there.
I don't believe the house is in the flood zone, but again, the house is the schools. It's there. It's for them to do whatever they want with. It doesn't have any impact to this project or vice versa. You could even argue that the house is actually contributing to the issue that's out there today. And so that, the roundabout's actually fixing that situation, so.
I have a question about the 5 roads leading into the roundabout. Those gray colored triangles. Is that going to be painted into the roadway? What are those?
So raised concrete island.
Those are raised? How is a bicyclist going to get across that?
So it just same way that a sidewalk typically has that ramp that allows access. It's the same idea. So they're raised, but there is a ramp down for people to cross and wheelchair.
How tall is the raised area?
6 inches. So standard, curb reveal like you would have anywhere else.
But different shapes and sizes for the 5 roads.
Yeah, it's determined based on truck geometry, because we have to get these very large trucks through here, but we also have to somehow make it as tight as possible, right? So that's the balance, and that's why they all look a little different, because of the different angles at which the roads approach the roundabout.
Because I noticed in the Walmart roundabout, a lot of the trucks run right over them.
They do it in Bennington.
Yeah.
And part of the design is to allow that, actually. I mean, we don't want trucks to just, blazingly just, shoot, straight over. And some of them do, and there's nothing we can do from an engineering perspective to stop that. But the design will take that into account so that when they do, they're not damaging something or their vehicles in the process.
And for our roundabout design here, this center island is mountable. So if you see how this is a slightly different color than the gray, I know it might be hard to see, but basically this piece of it is mountable, so trucks can overtrack that, they can drive up onto it. Regular passenger vehicles, it would be uncomfortable for them to do that, so they usually stay off. But trucks will be able to pull up onto that in order to navigate, especially those big interstate trucks. You know, those are the trucks that would need that. And for the islands approaching it, this one here, the two on 67 and Silk, and the third one on Silk, those are not mountable. So we're gonna have signage in there, and we're not gonna let trucks direct it, and it's a vertical curb. So generally, trucks won't drive over them. The one on the college here and Rice Madison here, those are mountable islands. So when the much larger truck needs to pull out onto that street, they can mount onto those because the way that the curb is set is not vertical, it's set at an angle.
Any other questions?
No?
Any other questions online? Just a comment that it looks really beautiful. Thank you.
I will say that I appreciate coming to Bennington. Bennington is one of the few communities that we can come to, and they are actually very accepting of roundabouts, so thank you all for that. If you are in favor of roundabouts, it's not a battle with you folks, which is very refreshing for V-Trans. So, thanks everybody for attending tonight. Again, if you haven't signed up for updates, it's going to be very busy next year. So feel free to sign up for those. Feel free to reach out to us anytime you have questions or concerns, and we'll get back to you when we can get answers to you. So, thanks again tonight, and take care. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.